And a special hello to Évora, because our next speaker, Professor Soumodip Sarkar, usually lives there, and he's the dean of the doctorate program there. And without further ado, Professor Sarkar, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, boa tarde. I've been, since yesterday afternoon, I participated in all the sessions. I was sitting in all the sessions. And this lunchtime I thought, what do I have to add? It's been a humbling session because really I feel that after listening to so many speakers who live in such dynamic environments, for example, Silicon Valley, do I really have anything much to add? And the answer is no. Most of what I have to say is what Steve Jobs had said, is connecting dots. I'll be connecting what other speakers had said. The title, many people ask me why Entresutra. Well, because I'm Indian. People expect me to do Indian things. And I know some sutras, so I thought, why not? So I'll do an Entresutra. My name is Soumodip Sarkar. It's not an easy name to pronounce. My parents thought it's innovative to give me a name nobody can spell and hardly anybody pronounce. So here I am. For some years now, I've been thinking about what is the one insight that my research can give or I can provide, which can explain entrepreneurial success. Some phrase, for example, a disruptive entrepreneurship or something like that. I try and try and try, and I always come back to the same things, which is, over the years, I've realized that there is no sufficient condition. What we have for success, either in our day-to-day life or in entrepreneurship, is a set of necessary conditions. And this is what I'm going to speak about today. Before lunch, Tony Fernandez also had 10 conditions. I have 7, because, there are 7 days of the week, 7 deadly sins, 7 wonders of the world, 7 commandments. There were 10, but I took off 3. So I have 7. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a reverse countdown, starting with number 7. This is about garages. I don't know if anybody knows this garage. This is where Silicon Valley is supposed to have been born, where Hewlett and Packard, they set up their shop in this garage. Another garage, this one, Walt Disney. This is the garage of his uncle. He couldn't find a job, and this is where he set up his first movie, made his first movie, the Alice series. Another garage. This one, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak. They assembled the first Apple I computer in 1976 in this garage. Yet another garage. Amazon. Jeff Bezos. This is where he started selling the books in 1990s. This is what we can say, that Amazon was born here. Yet another garage. This is the garage Google founders. So when they left Stanford, then they started off here. So where do I want to go with this? So what do you need for success? Garages. And because we are in Portugal, the next step would be having an observatorio dos garages. Thank you. Unfortunately, this is how many of our policymakers think about resolving problems. The same thing yesterday Paul was mentioning, and I completely agree. The way, okay, so what do you need to finance your company? So you need venture capital. So here the state comes in and starts and wants to bring in money and hopes that this is going to resolve the problem. Doesn't work that way. At universities, colleges, last few years, we want to promote entrepreneurship. So what do? We give entrepreneurship courses. And most often they turn out to be little more than business plans. And that too, often working with the financial numbers. This is not how it works. The story of garages has it's a metaphor for at least three things. First, the idea that there's someone, a hero entrepreneur who's working days and nights, sets up his great startup. That's not true. Other authors have shown that there have been teams working together. Another metaphor for this, the garage, would be the idea that you really don't need a lot of money when you want to start. Yesterday, I think Peter was talking about bootstrapping. This is a good example of bootstrapping, where you use as little resources as possible to set up your company, to start your operations. The third metaphor, which is the metaphor here of thinking about, starting top down, looking at what seems to be the obvious and thinking, let's apply that obvious and it'll work. It doesn't work that way. So the number 7 to me is remember the garage. Okay. Next. Am I condemned? The first thing I noticed when I was born was my dad's head. So I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be bald. Well, it's proven to be true, and I'm sure my kids thought the same when they saw me the first time. Are we condemned? To what extent our genes determine our future, our behavior, our professions, and so on? Are creative people born that way? Are entrepreneurs born? Or can we promote a culture which promotes entrepreneurship? I give you an example of marathon. 33 of the men's marathon records of all time belong to runners from Africa. 27 of these from just 2 countries, in Eastern Africa, Ethiopia, and Kenya. So, if I think about the garage example, and if you want your kids to be great marathon runners, what should you do? Go to Ethiopia and have your kids there. And I can give you other examples. When you fill out an insurance form, most likely you have to answer a question like this. Do you suffer from, or do your parents suffer from any known medical condition, and so on? That is to say that our genes are inherited. Much of our diseases are inherited. And that takes me to the question of entrepreneurship. This tiny island of Jamaica has, in 2008 Olympics, all four sprint titles went to Jamaican runners, athletes. You probably know him, Usain Bolt, current world record holder for both the world as well as Olympic records for 100 and 200 meters. And Jamaica, for example, has a history of having athletes, top flight athletes, especially of the short distances. So that brings us to the question, there's a big debate going on about nature versus nurture. To what extent what I do now has been influenced by the society I am in, or to what extent what I do now is influenced by my genes? And the answer is both. If you look at any of these examples I gave you, you'll find that in many cases, genes have very little to do with success. In the case of the athletes, for example, from Jamaica, Jamaica has a program called CHAMPS that's inbuilt in the schools. So small kids, what they want to do most, when you speak about excellence, they think about excellence in CHAMPS. So this is part of the culture. CHAMPS is something very, very big. So everybody aspires to be a good runner and run in the CHAMPS. Same thing with Ethiopia, Kenya, long distance runners from Kenya. Again, it's the same thing. If you look at more details, the real story has often much to do with hunger, the need for success, the need to get out of poverty, and so on. So what I'm trying to get at here is nurture the ambient, the where we live in, where we work, with whom we work, has a very strong influence on what we do. So this is what I call entrepreneurial osmosis. It's been spoken about in using different terms today and yesterday. Our society with whom we work, our colleagues, our friends, have great influence on us. I remember something which I'm not very proud of, but the other day, I'm an entrepreneur because I have 4 kids. My eldest son, Vashku, he's 14, and he told me, Dad, I want to spend this afternoon with my friend. And I'm not proud of this, but I blurted out, I asked, is he a good student? Now, and I said that, and I'm ashamed of that. But it told me something about the way I think, about the influence my kids' friends have on them, and vice versa. So this takes me to what I'm going to conclude this point with, is be among smart people. Right? Politically, it may not be correct to say that, but try to be among people who are better than you, if possible, which means you're probably not going to be with me. Then hire smart people. This takes me to a Dilbert joke. It says, a good manager hires people who are smarter than he is, and in the end it gets down to, so your boss is dumber than you, and your boss's boss is dumber yet. So according to your theory, our CEO must be the dumbest person in the company. Okay, but it's not where I want to get to, but the idea is try to be in an environment where, in a dynamic environment, where people are smart, they're striving. And this gets me to the question of Portugal. Our kids, young people, want to be like Ronaldo. We need more Ronaldos, but not necessarily in football. We need Ronaldos as entrepreneurs to show that success is possible. If you look at the analogy of sports that I'm doing, same thing if you look at tennis. Bjorn Borg, the impact he had on Swedish tennis. Our neighbor, Spain, lately, they are producing fantastic tennis players. All this to say that it's enough to have some examples to inspire other people. So the environment makes a difference. Finally, mediocrity is sustainable. It's possible to maintain, to sustain excellence is not easy. But given the right conditions, it's possible to maintain mediocrity. I will not try to explain why, but I thought it's important to say that. Well, what do all these people have in common? So Ichiro Honda, he didn't get a job in Toyota. J.K. Rowling, single mother, depressed, living on welfare. Successful author. Einstein, he couldn't speak till he was 4 years of age. He couldn't write till he was 7. He couldn't get admission to Zurich Polytechnic School, and he ended up with the Nobel Prize. Edison, Edison he was told he was not smart when he was young. He tried 1,000 experiments before he had success with the light bulb. Next, I could go on with all, and there are many examples of this. Walt Disney, he couldn't get a job. Elvis Presley, he was told he had no talent and he should go back being a truck driver. Van Gogh didn't sell a single painting in his life. Jerry Seinfeld, his first performance, he was booed off the stage. Marilyn Monroe, she was told she should try becoming a secretary because she had no talent, of course. Leaving this person out, everybody ended up being very successful. And the morning's talk was about that. So I'm not going to repeat what's already been said and much better than perhaps. But the idea is not necessarily to seek failure. But if you fail, and you likely fail because you tried, get up, try again. You'll probably fail again, try again, but keep trying. Okay? So this gets me to Michael Jordan, who said, I missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost, this is a recent ad of his, I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. Nobody said better than Bob Dylan when he said, she knows that there's no success like failure, and that failure is no success at all. Don't be like this great philosopher. He has his own point of view. Homer Simpson, when he says the train is the first step towards failure. It's true. But you fail, get up, and try again. Angry Birds, I think about 2 weeks back, they had the 500 million downloads in different platforms. Few people know it probably that this was after 50 attempts. They had 50 different, I think this was number 52, this Angry Birds. So they tried and they tried and they tried. Another story of Angry Birds is nothing is original. A lot of it is ideas adapted from other games. So number 5 is fail smart. Well, I'm almost getting to the closing points. What do organizations strive for? If you look at the mission statements, vision statements, and so on, you will find something like, we want to be the best, we want to be the most innovative company, we want to be the leaders, and so on. But much of it involves risks. But what most organizations strive for, especially the larger ones, is not risk-taking. Because what they want are the employees who know their jobs, who know their routines. The firms look for stability, they look for predictability. So what they have as their mission statements do not translate into what they actually do in their organizations. Here's a good example. When the CEO says, we have considered every potential risk except the risk of avoiding all risks. We want adventures, but we don't want to take risks. We want to give employees freedom to innovate, yet we want to micromanage. We promote routines, but we ask for creative people. We want change without really causing changes. And it goes on. You look around you, ask questions, and you'll find that much of what I'm saying is probably true. So this gets me to this point, which is the Heisenberg principle. The Danish physicist in 1927 wrote this paper, and was now called the Heisenberg principle, which is you cannot predict at the same time the velocity and the position of a particle. I have adapted this principle to something like in entrepreneurship, that you cannot have it both ways. You cannot have an organization which is extremely stable and yet hope that we're going to be a very innovative company. It's not possible. You need a little bit of ambiguity. You need a little bit of uncertainty, because that's what promotes thinking, creativity. I give you the example, which is of course not mine. citing Orson Welles, who said, in Italy, for 30 years under the Borgias, they had warfare, terror, murder, and bloodshed. But what did they produce? Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, and the Renaissance. In Switzerland, they had brotherly love. They had 500 years of democracy and peace. And what did they produce? The cuckoo clock. I've been corrected in one of my talks. Somebody said it was actually in Austria, but I'm not to blame. This is Orson Welles who said this. But essentially, you need some chaos. And if I may be permitted to think about Portugal now, the present situation, unfavorable economic situation, may actually be a time, an opportunity for many of us to make changes in our personal lives, professional lives, and think about entrepreneurship as an option. This is a recent study by a group of MIT psychologists published in a journal called Cognicist, 2011. So this experiment consisted of 60 preschool children. So the experiment had different phases. I'm trying to reduce it to the most simple point I want to make. Kids were divided into two groups, and they were told to play with 4 beads, and they would put the beads on top of a music box. And some cases would work, other cases wouldn't work. So they were divided into two groups. In the first experiment, the first group was given a situation where if you drop the beads, the 4 beads, the music would play. The other group was in a more ambiguous situation, which is, in some cases, you would drop the beads, would play, other cases wouldn't play, and so on. And then after this, they got, the researchers got all the kids together and again played the same game. But this time in an environment which was ambiguous, which is, again, you didn't know if you would have music or not. What they found is the kids who were in an ambiguous situation before, they were the ones who were most curious and who were, in the end, successful in playing the music. The kids who were in a completely determined situation before, they had much greater difficulty in playing the music. Conclusion: this bit of being in an ambiguous situation, being in an environment which has some uncertainty, can actually be very good for promoting creativity. So number 4, remember the Heisenberg principle. Again, our philosopher, now I'm coming to number 3, our philosopher, Homer Simpson, he said, if something's hard to do, then it's not worth doing. And this is about work. Of course, it's not true. Another example, this is also not true. In some cases, some societies maybe, but an entrepreneurship doesn't work. You cannot kiss ass and be successful, at least not sustainable. Most people, and lately, we have a romantic vision of entrepreneurship. And it's time to look at realities. Entrepreneurship is not easy. This morning, speakers spoke about that. It's not easy. Here's Calvin and Hobbes. When Calvin says, when I grow up, I want to be an entrepreneur. And Hobbes asked, what are the reasons? And he says what the reasons are, like I can give orders to people, earn pots of money while they work for me. I'll be my own boss. Till he's reminded that doesn't work that way. It's not going to be easy. It's a lot of hard work. I had this video which spoke about, one kid who has this entrepreneurial dream, but the only thing he does is he asks for money. Okay. Anyway, nobody said it was easy. I quote Malcolm Gladwell when he says, the emerging picture from such studies, this is from his book, Outliers, is that 10,000 hours of practice is required to achieve the level of mastery associated with being a world-class expert in anything. And he cites somebody else. It seems it takes the brain this long to assimilate all that needs to know to achieve true mastery. That is 5 to 6 years of continued dedicated work before you master anything really. So it's not easy. Nothing really is. And entrepreneurship much less so. No one ever said it would be so hard. That's Coldplay. Now, I'm almost getting to the end. I hope I'm sticking to my time. Steve Jobs spoke about creativity as connecting dots. So, do the dots exist? And here I'm going to cite other people's work, but the reality is, if you have some of these conditions I spoke about, you step on one dot, you see two more dots. You enter that dot, few more dots open up, and then you start connecting. I will cite work of other people, and basically what I want to show here, what I want to say is that the dots are not there for you. When you have a few set of conditions, like a certain amount of intelligence, hard work, dedication, knowledge, which is something we underrate, when you have a set of these conditions, then the doors start opening up. And here, connecting the dots, in one sense, where do good ideas come from? This is the work of Steven Johnson, his book. Good ideas come from not only ambiguous situations, but also when you mix people up. When you are in the coffee room situation where people are from different parts of the city, when you're mixing, when you're talking to other people, there has to be a dynamic environment. And this dynamic environment also comes from the fact that people are from different backgrounds. Stuart Kaufman is a biologist, and Steven Johnson based his theory on, or his work on, fundamentally on the adjacent possible, which is you start doing things, you'll have problems, but a few doors will open up. And these doors are not doors of opportunity as much as ideas. Then you enter these doors, and then a few more would open up. And this is basically what I'm saying here, that you enter something like what I call enter the nirvana space, where it's a very dynamic environment. This morning, Paul spoke about the need for flux, for movement, and so on and so forth. It's another way of saying this is what I'm saying, is that you have to enter in a dynamic environment, which I call the nirvana space. And you literally have to be prepared for that. And once you are there, you'll find out that doors start opening up. Things start happening. Finally, number one, all that buzz. If you look at management studies, management books, a few years back, people would speak about matrix management, knowledge management, business process reengineering, just-in-time, delayering, lean manufacturing, and so on, total quality management, and so on and so forth. Now, there's a lot of buzz out there. There's a lot of noise. Remember, out of the box. Some years back, people would speak a lot about out of the box. Our think outside the box policy has been discontinued until further notice. There's a lot of buzz, a lot of hype, a lot of noise, and a lot of reason as well. Each author, each guru has his own theory, and of course he's right in his or her own way. But end of the day, things start getting complicated, and this is where I'm going to stop. Think about all these books. How many management books and how many do we still talk about today? I think the most important point, the most important message I would like to leave is that we have to really know what we want. And speaking to managers, speaking to even potential entrepreneurs, I find that most really don't know. They really don't. They think they know, but even the problem has not been well defined. Okay, and I think you have to find your own e-spot. called the C-spot. We have to really decide what is it that we want. What is the problem we want to solve? An entrepreneur, what is it that your product, your service, how is it different? And how can you resolve the set of problems you have? And many times the issues are not clearly placed. So this is where I end with the three most beautiful words in English: just do it. There are people who know how to do it. Most of you here. Those who don't, which is me here, I speak, you guys do. But these are the set of 7 principles that along the years I've discovered that entrepreneurial success hinges on these principles. I'd like to thank very much the organization, the fabulous people who invited me here. Thank you.